To discuss is RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, thank you so much for joining us. And let's just begin with your overall take on what appears to be perhaps some dysfunction going on in the White House.
Oh, I think that's a kind word. I mean, we had an MIA candidate in Joe Biden. The mainstream media chose not to vet him. They allowed him to run a campaign from his basement with no scrutiny. And now we're seeing the consequence of that because we have a crisis happening in our country. We have Americans trapped overseas, and we have an MIA president. And he's doing the same thing. He's hiding out. And now we need answers. And my question to Joe Biden would be, if it were your son trapped in Afghanistan, wouldn't you expect the president of the United States to be facing the American people, especially after they failed in evacuating Americans effectively and executing a plan of withdrawal from Afghanistan? That would be my question to the President of the United States right now, who seems to be more intent on hiding than answering really serious questions that Americans deserve to know.
Ronna, you've spent a lot of time in the White House yourself with the previous president. What do you think President Trump would have been doing? How do you think he would have exited differently? And what do you think he would be doing now?
Well, this would have never happened under President Trump. The one thing about President Trump is the Taliban would have feared him. He would have responded. He would never have left our civilians trapped. He would have had a well planned out and thought out evacuation and never would have allowed any type of military action like you're seeing from the Taliban right now. Certainly not letting our men and women be trapped there, but also our weapons. And you know who knows that better than anyone? Soleimani. When he told them, don't mess with the U.S., and they did, he took action. When he did that with Syria, when they put chemical weapons out, he took action. The Taliban made a calculation. They knew Biden would not take action. He hasn't. And now it's in the hands of the Taliban to decide if Americans can make it to the airport. That is a failure of leadership at the highest level.
And unacceptable to put the lives of Americans and the lives of those who assisted America in the hands of the Taliban. Ronna, do you think that President Biden should resign, and should his cabinet invoke, or should his cabinet invoke the 25th Amendment?
Well, I definitely feel like people need to be held accountable. And I don't know if it's the Secretary of Defense. I don't know if it's the generals. I don't know who it needs to be held accountable. We need to get to the bottom of this bad intelligence. How did they not anticipate that Afghanistan would fall so quickly? How did they so miscalculate the evacuation of American citizens? And this can't just be, let's put our head in the sand and pretend that the news cycle goes away. This is a failure. It's a national security threat. And I'll say something else. We have a crisis on our southern border as well that they have turned a blind eye to. And I know the media is paying attention to Afghanistan. Finally, they're paying attention to a failure on the Biden administration. But there's another failure happening at our southern border, and that's also a national security threat to this country.
But isn't President Biden ultimately the one responsible for all of that? I mean, he said the buck stops with me.
The buck stops with him 100%. The buck stops with him. I mean, I would love for him to resign. I have no problem saying he should resign over this. I don't think he's going to listen to the RNC chair. I think he should just answer some questions to begin with and maybe talk to these families, especially our servicemen and women who served for 20 years and kept our country safe. Thank you so much to them. Yes. You did your job, and our leaders right now have failed you.
Ronna, thank you so much. Ronna McDaniel.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.